Trollord Games. Join the fray.
Hey, Mazel Tov. Hello. How are y'all doing? We have been watching a saga out. So we live pretty high up, and there was a bug outside of our window. It's still there.
Sorry.
We live really high up, and we're like, what's his plan? Because we thought he just crawled up here, and then he like disappeared, and we thought maybe like he got by a bird or something when we blinked, but actually he's fine. He can fly, but we've just been watching him gasping every time he does anything. New type, Wolf Alone, DM Chris, welcome in. How are y'all doing? It's so good to see you here. Are y'all having a good week so far? How was your weekend? Tell us all about it. Are you in the Trollord Games Discord?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you put a picture of the bug in the Discord?
Yeah.
It's huge. Good to see you. Good to see you too, my friend. Big news of the week, of course, is Castles and Crusades Reforged. So that's been a lot of fun to get all together and stuff this week. Killed a player yesterday. How'd they take it? What happened? Also, almost killed his replacement. Also, oh man, you can't double tap. Oof. Ouch. What happened? Tell us about it. The weekend started off okay, then so far it's Monday. I'm ready for it to be Christmas time again. I'm not ready. I'm not ready for Christmas yet. Give me summer.
Where should I put that picture, Grace?
Maybe like general, I guess. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Tell the mods to yell at me if it's the wrong place. A player or their character. Very important distinction, Manfred. Also, welcome in. Hello. Also, is my sound okay? Are you guys getting crazy, like, noise? Hey, Apprentice. I saw your email, and I forwarded it to our community director. Thank you for reaching out, and I'm sorry that they haven't gotten back to you yet. But yes, we did see your email, and I forwarded it to the right person. So yeah, you should be hearing something very shortly. Whew.
There you go.
And there's a picture of a very cool bug in our Discord, if you'd like to check it out. Sounds good to me. You could probably use a high pass filter. Oh, you're definitely correct. This room is not soundproofed at all. Thank you very much, buddy. I appreciate it very much. I'll not bug you any further. You're fine. Come hang out anytime. It's lovely to see you. And I hope all is well. Ooh, okay. Oh, and Willie, welcome back for month 44. God damn, Jesus. Trolza. To Fate Hags. Okay. Curse gave them disadvantage on all rolls and almost an auto hit for 8 force every attack. So they were getting hit with 8 force damage, like every attack. That would wear you down. It would. In the Storms Front, which is on YouTube, we were all so afraid of combat. Oh, music is kind of loud here. Sorry, y'all. I did not realize it was so loud. Yeah. Combat in Castles and Crusades put the fear of God in us like never before. Nice art. Thank you. This is done by Zoe. She's incredible. She's amazing. I believe that she's doing some of our art for the new Castles and Crusades Reforged core books. So that's going to be exciting. If y'all didn't know, let me just pull up the link here. Because, wouldn't you know it, we're giving away... oh man, I can't get in there. That's okay. We're giving away our player's handbook for free. Let me see if I can just find the link elsewhere really quick, because I can't grab it in the place where I thought that I was going to be able to grab it. But yeah, brand new player's handbook for free. When they first pitched that, I couldn't believe it. Can I help you?
Can you hand me the iPad?
Yeah, of course.
Sorry, I thought I could get
Here you go. Let me grab this real quick. So if you haven't, definitely sign up for the newsletter and get a free PDF of the brand new, brand new player's handbook. And then it didn't just exactly the PDF version. Jeez, okay, it's not letting me just straight up copy and paste it. That's okay. I'll just type it out because now I see it. Just double checking my work here. Check it out. Get a free PDF, brand new player's handbook, play for free. Easy. We figured because like the 7th printing is already free, so if we have this new version that we're super excited about, then why not like just make that free too, and then you can get the other books if you want. We're pretty confident in them. But hey, we're not here to talk about the best role-playing game of all time. We're here to talk about 3 people wandering around in the forest. Last we left off, I'm loving those YouTube interviews you're doing with the troll peeps. Maybe you could make one cry like Farmer Walters used to. I'll get right on that. I think we finished this round, and we'll probably do like a second round of interviews with like some kind of more interesting questions beyond like the getting to know you like basic kind of stuff. So if there's any questions that you want asked to the troll lords, let me know and I will take note of it. Johnny Omaha, welcome in. Thanks for tuning in from X, my friend. It's good to see you. And this hobby is still mostly dominated by physical books nerds. It's just, there's nothing like it. Just having a really, really nice physical book. No worry to give away the PDF because the hardbacks will still sell. That's the thought. We're just like, you know what? Here's the thing. If you want it actually on your shelf, you can have it. Scour their Twitter accounts and spring the trap. But hey, so if you haven't been here before, my name is Grace. We every Monday read fiction set in the world of Aihrde. I had a map and then it fell because I put it up with Scotch tape. But this is Aihrde. And basically, I'll have that up for next time. But do me a solid and check your mic settings. You sound a little more roomy. It's kind of rough. We don't have a very like soundproof room here. This room is mostly windows. So unfortunately, there's not a ton that I can do about it, I don't think. But yeah, I don't really have any like stuff that I can do at the moment. I'm sorry, my friend. I hope it's still okay. It takes too long time to look stuff up in a PDF during play. Yeah, whereas like it sounds like your laptop might be your normal one. Does it now? It should be. Okay, in this one here, it says that I'm using the right mic. So it should be right. Acoustic panels on the walls will help. That may have to be an option in the future here. Get the map printed on cloth and hang it behind you. That will help stop a lot of the reverb. That probably is definitely good advice. I was thinking about like hanging up maybe a blanket or something. You sound fine to me? Well, thank you. I appreciate it. No, you're good, Johnny. Thank you for the feedback. It definitely is super helpful. This mic is new-ish to me, and I'm still kind of getting used to like what it needs. So definitely going to be looking into like getting this room a little bit more friendly. But in the meantime, every Monday we read about Aihrde. We've in the past read through the entire Codex of Aihrde. And most recently, we've been reading through a brand new novella from Stephen Chenault called The Pools of Dunhollow, which is the full kind of novella-length story about the three heroes that we've kind of been reading about in our flash fiction books, Uric, Ava, and Folkgard. And if this is your first time here, they are looking to rescue their friend Gregor, who was mortally wounded during a storm and is now in the care of a dryad. And in order to both free him from the dryad and also heal his wounds, they need mystical waters from the pools of Dunhollow, so they're going to get it. The pools lie in a very haunted forest through which they are currently making their way. They happened upon a village being ransacked by bandits, and with his dying breath, one of the bandits beseeched Uric to please take this precious green stone that he has and free his sister from servitude. And so Uric took the stone and is headed that way. However, a local forest nymph has also laid eyes on the stone and wants it. And Uric, Ava, and Folkgard have all just kind of fought her off for the first time, and they're now proceeding through the woods again towards their destination. We got a little bit of a lore dump about the pools of Dunhollow and what makes it special, and I think that just about covers it. I got a lot of the classic RPG world maps from Redbubble. Ooh, did you mean Redbubble's scarves? Hang them. Do you mind clarifying? Hang them. Like, do you mean like zoom them in on a certain region and then like print them? Because that's a super good idea.
They hang them up when they do Zoom calls, and it helps with the conversion.
Oh, okay. With Zoom calls. Okay, gotcha. Trouble! Singing the song of your people. Come here. Would you like to help us start the story? He ran for the front door. Maybe we'll see him in a minute. But, welcome in. Thank you for coming by. Get cozy. Settle into whatever kind of task you'd like to do while we do this reading. If you'd like to clean or work on maps or tabletop RPG stuff. We are just here to read a very cozy story about magic and adventurers going on an adventure. This is Trouble. He's the real reason we're all here. Just as like a fun aside right before we get started, Nick found his, Nick's mom brought his old trumpet from high school?
It's a mellophone.
A mellophone.
Yeah. From
school days. And he played it. And Trouble was not a fan of the trumpet. He was a very, very scared little puppy. It was not fun. But yeah, on that note, Trolza. We must soon find a place to camp. Ava began to look for any kind of shelter, but found nothing but wide space between towering trees. As the sun began its final dip beneath the snow-packed rim, she chose a small glade where an ancient beech tree still held off younger growth, but whose own crown was long fallen and dead, heaped in untidy detritus around its mighty trunk. Its rotted trunk, split up the middle so that much of the inside was hollowed out, stood over a pool of water, fed from the north, but which trickled on to the south over one broad, smooth stone. there to pass on to the larger stream they had followed throughout the day. "This'll do. Plenty of firewood. We'll set the burn in the hollow of this tree so to at least give us some cover from the forest to the west of us. Water is here too." "There are no fae here, sleeping in this clear pool?" Folkgard looked into the water. It was deep, but clear, and caught the dying light such that it seemed to sparkle. "This wood, it is like the unspoken halls in Norgrad Cam, with all their mysteries." They cleaned the area and built a small mound of firewood. Yurik dug a small fire pit just within the hollow of the tree, where they set limb to light to warm their food and dispel the coming dark. It had been an easy day, but long, and their muscles called to the flat ground and warmth promised by well-used blankets. In short order, they were gathered around the fire, eating and musing in quiet. The temperature dropped noticeably as soon as the sun vanished beyond the mountain rim, and the fingers of darkness washed over their world. The fire took to the dry wood and lanced the deepening gloom with a bright array of orange and yellows. Hey, History of Frost, Slay Queen. As with the night before, the parched tinder sparked and sputtered, sending small dancing embers into the evening sky. Aside from the fire, a quiescent gloom settled over the whole wood, encouraged by a mist that slowly rose to hang in the air only a few feet from the forest floor. As the three settled down, Ava on the first watch, only shadows of tall trees loomed beyond the fire, caught in the light of the clear sky that trickled down to fuse with the mist and give the whole blue-dark night a magical aura that played upon the senses. As the evening passed, Ava turned to rouse Yurik for his watch. "Yurik, my lids are grown heavy. Let me into your role and you take the next chill watch." As he opened an eye, a tittering sound came from the wood, catching her attention, and she looked into the night, trying to see beyond the light of the fire. Yurik's mind slipped into gear, and he sat up slowly, looking around. "Did you hear that?" "I heard nothing but your waking voice." "No, it sounded like a child's voice." She stepped to the side of the tree, away from the fire, so her eyes could better adjust. He sat up slowly, deliberately, taking his sword belt in hand. "That is unlikely. Not this far in. Is it another sprite, perhaps?" Folkgard turned in his sleep, their whispers disturbing his dwarven dreams. "It does not feel like it, Knight." She stood slowly and walked to the edge of the firelight to get a better view. The chill air bit at her, and the damp mist clung to everything. Again, a tittering sound came from deep in the wood, a sing-song sound like the piping of incoherent voices. She turned to Yurik. He nodded that he heard it, and stood up, belting his sword on, and quietly hooked his armor back over his shoulder. He stepped into the night with her. They stood thus for a long moment, listening, the mist all the while thickening about them. A shadow caught her eye, and she turned to the left and saw something move there, disturbing the blue dark. A laughter seemed to come from beyond the mist, beyond the world, and then the sound of padded feet on the forest floor. Yurik gripped the pommel of his sword, and Ava felt the patience flow from the man. She had become used to his acts of sudden violence, but only when evil was afoot. "Do you sense something my eyes cannot see?" "It is there," he whispered, "just on the edge of things. A glimmer of an injurious thought." A child's voice, high with a laughing fear to it, sang again, closer this time. "Peel, peel the apple peel, 1, 2, 3. Peel, peel the apple peel, don't peel me. Ava's eyes widened. What in the name of the Green Lady is that? 'Tis some devilry of Narhite. She pulled her knife, and he half drew his blade. Folkgard, sensing the sudden change in the camp, rose and took up his axe. He did not uncase it, but looked around. Quietly he spoke. Why do you utter that name, most loathsome of all your gods? Is some evil about us? It is around us. There are children in the mist and something else, just beyond our sense. The dwarf slowly uncased his axe and took hold of his wooden shield. The song came again, but different now. Trim her locks, trim his locks, 1, 2, 3. Trim her locks, trim his locks, don't scalp me. Yurik pulled his blade free and uttered a small orison to the first wind, capturing the fire's light on the edge of the steel. As he did, a figure ran into view, just at the edge of the fire and on the other side of the clear pool. A child, maybe 6, maybe 7, stood there looking at them. He was disheveled, with dirty brown hair, ragged pants and shirt, and a small threadbare coat over it all. One foot had a stocking on it, the other a leather shoe. He stared with wide eyes at the trio before him. Ava, her long hair pinned back, stood with her wicked-looking knife, point down in hand. Heavy leather armor, and dark green pants and cloak. Folkgard stood behind her, his hair a bit wild, but his beard tied into 2 forks, and strung with brass rings. He held his uncased, bearded axe in one hand, and his war board in the other. His ring mail lay crumpled on the ground next to him. Yurik stood slightly forward of the other 2, his plaited chain loose upon his shoulders, his dark hair cropped close to his scalp, and stubble of a beard just growing, long sword in hand. His iron-shod boots crushed some branches as he stepped forward of the others. Begone, fetch. We've nothing for you here, and call for neither peel nor scalp. The child laughed and ran into the dark, calling a name that sounded like Karok or something similar, but the high voice and the muffling mist kept the name from the trio. What in the brass holes was that? A fetch, I think. A ghost of some wayward soul. Surely not a child, Ava broke in. Surely not here, not there. Not singing that. As if in answer, another song came over the mist. Draw a knife, 1, 2, 3. Draw a knife, don't skin me. Ava sheathed her knife and retrieved her bow and handful of arrows. She moved quietly to the trunk and climbed up to find a perch 6 feet from the ground. There, she hooked her leg over a branch and scanned the misty wood. There's light in the distance. A will-o-wisp, maybe. I cannot be sure. But there are figures out there, at least 2. I see them moving. More, I think. A woman's voice came to them then. It was closer to hand, but felt disembodied. It called in the dark. Boys! Boys! It was filled with a mother's frantic worry. It rang hollow, though, hard, as if broken by loss and privation. From the darkness, a form emerged, near to where the boy had only just stood. A man as tall as Yurik, but thinner, gaunt, as if he had been hungry for a long time. His clothes, too, were threadbare, and his face hollow. His eyes carried the horror of long suffering, but his demeanor was one seeking help, some rescue from his plight. Please, can you help us? We are trapped. Ava stopped, slowly knocking an arrow. Folkgard froze, the water in the air so thick it gathered in small beads on the blade of his axe. Both waited to see what the man would do. Scrape their flesh, scrape their flesh. 1, 2, 3. Scrape their flesh, don't scrape me. The man turned at the sound, and a worried frown crossed his brow. He turned back to the trio, muttering incoherently. Yurik could see the good in the man, or at least the good that had once been there. But the soul was darkened, turned in on itself, twisted with only the hint of evil about it. You are a haunt, nothing more, bound here through some curse that escapes the living. You are nothing more nor less. I need your help. I am bound. I am lost. I am... You are dead. You linger in the land of the living, denied even the endless pools. I cannot help you. Yurik, what are we doing? How long will you treat with this man? Hold a moment, Ava. It does not know it is dead. He does not know. Goodly sir, I am but lost and need help. I need you to help me. I was on the road and became separated. It trailed off, looking down for a moment, as if trying to recollect what had happened to it. I do not know. I need help. You cannot deny me once promised. You are beyond my rescue. Yurik took note as Folkguard moved around his right, shield raised and axe held in a firm grip. Do not spook it, Folkguard. Mayhap it will move on. There is another one, Yurik. I see it. Womanly of form, I think. A long cloak, at least. Ragged like this one's. Oh, that was Ava. Sorry, whatever. Ava's voice barely a whisper. Another figure walked into the edge of the campfire, behind the man, and to his left 12 or so feet. She stood in the mist in a long, ragged cloak that dragged to the ground. The hood lay bunched on her shoulders. Her face, too, was sallow, pale, her eyes hollow. Her hair was long, thick, and looked dark, but was tangled, with some matted to her face with dried blood. Flay, flay, flay the bone, 1, 2, 3. Flay, flay, flay the bone, don't flay me. The tittering, hungry laughter of the sing-song came again from the forest deeps. The glade around the small pond filled with motion. Hey, Blaze. The man's visage changed to one of ravening madness as it leapt forward, hands adorned with jagged claws, raking toward the knight, who ducked and slashed in a violent arc across the creature's midsection, disemboweling it. Ava's arrow sliced through the creature's throat even before it moved. Folkguard leapt too, interceding between the knight and the cloaked figure, who, on sudden, turned into a beastly white while rushing Yurik. When the first white fell upon Yurik, it was a ruin of its former self, its entrails tumbling out to the ground and into the pool, the arrow severing enough muscle to make the head twist wildly to the side. Despite this wreckage, it fell upon Yurik, raking claws across his mail and driving him back into the camp, to scatter gear in all directions. The knight was unbalanced and fell back, slipping on the large rock that served as a stream bed, drawing the creature with him, but keeping it from pulling him to the ground. Ava tossed her bow aside, pulled her knife, and leapt from above to pull the creature off of Yurik, knocking it off balance. It turned upon her with a vengeance. As this unfolded, the second white fell upon the dwarf, who swept its feet out from under it with one mighty blow. But even as it hit the ground, its body twisted in a grotesque fashion, turning on the dwarf as fast as it had fallen. Its one leg dangled from rent flesh and shattered bone, but still it slammed into his shield and drove him back with a maddening strength. Folkguard rolled it off, so that it came around into the camp, its back almost to the one Ava pulled off Yurik. Both whites leapt upon their prospective foes, when Yurik stood up and shouted, "By the first wind, get thee gone from me and mine!" His voice rolled across the camp like a breath of fresh air, and the whites took note, falling back from the night in some fear, the one dragging its legs, the other its rotted entrails. "I need help," it muttered. "Help me." But they fell back from the night in trio as Ava paused, and Folkguard got to his feet. The forms of both creatures faded some. Their demonic expression softened. They seemed fearful of the night, such that wisps of them began to unwind around them, filling the mist with an inky stain. The cloaked white hissed, however, in pain, fear, or both, uncertain of the night's prayers, but its uncertainty ended on sudden, as Folkguard's axe separated its tangled head from misshapen shoulders in one fluid motion. The other white, unraveling more, the filth of it merging ever more with the night, screamed and fled. The cloaked figure tossed and turned, unraveling as well, crawled upon the ground until at last it found its head, and slithered or floated, none could tell, its way into the brush, head in hand, shattered leg in trail. "Shall we kill them?" "We can chase those spirits all night, but likely only find more in the fog. They're unmade for now, though will as like come to haunt some other corner of this wood. Would that we could find their bodies and put them to stone and rest. Mayhap their spirits would be free. But that is not our path this eve. Yes, my knight, let us cap the tasks to one or two at a time." Ava looked around instinctively for tracks upon the ground, but found no sign around the camp. Trouble off. In the distance, as they settled down, they heard a tittering laughter. "Peel, peel the apple peel, 1, 2, 3. Peel, peel the apple peel, don't peel me." And you know what? That is all we have of the Pools of Dawn Hollow for now. We are waiting on the next chapter from Steve. So I think we should just go back to the Codex and read some fun stuff from there. I'm really digging the voice work, very smooth and professional, also like the distinctive quality for each character. That's really kind, thank you. I've never done anything like this. I've never done anything like this before doing this for TLG. My background is in spoken word poetry, so I have done a little bit of reading aloud, but never fiction. So thank you. I really appreciate that. I definitely want to give this awesome story the reading it deserves, you know what I mean? Before we dove into the Pools of Dawn Hollow, we were reading through the Codex of Aihrde. And I don't know where we were, but that's okay. I think we should go to the Age of Men. Just going through here. And or are there any stories from the Codex of Aihrde that you all would like to hear? Ooh, maybe we could read about Trigal the Mage. I do like that one. Man, oh man. Okay, this is like, it's like fantasy mythology, really. The Codex of Aihrde is like a book of myths. I think that's one of the reasons why I love it so much. Why don't we... Okay, you know, we're going to read about the Cobbler's Age. Because I think it's nice. Oh, but man, so I keep like scrolling back higher. Okay. Okay. We're gonna start with the Second Empire of Enoch and see how far we get. So, the Age of Man was, I believe, the 4th or 5th Rin upon the Arc of Time. It's like an age. And Enoch is one of the human kingdoms in Aihrde. So this is the Second Empire. And Enoch is one of them. For 3 centuries, the lords of Enoch ruled a sprawling empire, from the Rhodope Mountains in the west to the Domen in the east. They spread further south from the lands of Inklu, driving back the peoples of Nade. They built colonies in other lands as well, and spread their power to the east, following the coast of the Amber Sea. In truth, they did not rule as the god emperors of years past, for the Second Empire never included many of the other peoples of Aihrde. No dwarven lands came under their thumb, nor did the elven tribes who lived in the forest deeps, and it never extended much beyond the lands of Orsal and northern Inklu, and failed to conquer all the people of those lands. During the occupation, the orcs made constant war from their fortresses in the swamps, hills, and mountains. The horse lords of the Madriu soon shirked the overlordship, and though they paid tribute to the god emperors, they did so more from habit than fear. Thank you, Blaze. Not until the end of their line did the emperors of Enoch bring the world of Aihrde together, and then it was their master, the horned god, who did so. You know what? I'm so sorry. I'm going to read about the birth of the horned god, because the Codex of Aihrde was re-released to like the After Winter Dark version, and I just love this story. This is in the same chapter. Let me find this one. Man, I had it right the first time. Okay, I'm sorry to jump around you guys. I guess there isn't really like a concise way to... That's fine. We'll read about the guy. Okay. For real. We are going to read about the mage. One guy who brought about the end of Aihrde, nearly, of Trigal the mage. Evil has ever plagued the lands of Aihrde, and perhaps most of all in the Cobbler's Age. This is the current age of men. During the long death of the Empire, the emperors employed a host of magi, priests, scribes, and sages. They worked to further the ends of the emperors, or to unravel the mysteries of the sorcerers of old. One such was the magi Trigal. He served under many emperors, but did not rise to prominence until the reign of Marcus IV, just prior to the Festival of Clowns. In 449, he secured from the emperor the letters necessary to found the White Order, a guild of wizards dedicated to unearthing the antiquities of the dwarves and delivering them to the notice of the emperor's household. Trigal trained men and women, nobles, craftsmen, merchants, and peasants in the art of sorcery. At first, many traveling magi, practiced wizards and the like, joined the order. But in time, Trigal focused a great deal of attention on finding young apprentices, taking them in and molding them in his image, and he set these on secret paths of his own design. Above all, he sent them in search of the rune lore of the dwarves, for he sought the language of creation. In the beginning, the White Order delivered many priceless items to the emperor and expanded the knowledge of the ancient craft of sorcery, and the empire benefited thereby. Trigal remained in the employ of the imperial staff into the reign of Marcus IV. During those days, he led magi on journeys into the uttermost west, even to the feet of the first dwarven kingdoms and the seven swamps. What wild adventures he had there, and how he had knowledge of the dwarf realms, few remember. It is known, however, that when he came back from one ill-fated adventure, he did so with foolishly empty hands, for he also left the emperor's nephew in a cold grave on the other side of the world. Enraged, Marcus had the Magus seized. He ordered the emperor's watch to occupy his tower and sent his agents to learn Trigal's purpose in ancient Gorthrog. My sister's son is dead and left abandoned on the far side of the world. I cannot bring him home, but I'll know the purpose of his fall. The Emperor's watch occupied Trigal's tower and soon unearthed a wealth of knowledge, long hidden from the Emperor. It came to light that Trigal was not a simple mage or adventurer, but a powerful sorcerer who had allies in many realms beyond the mortal, and that he possessed powers beyond the understanding of his peers. Many of Trigal's students were seized and tortured, and they revealed that the Magus's work was vast, and much of it was conducted in secret, with only a chosen few enjoying the knowledge of his labors. His true purpose had been to understand the dwarven rune lore, lost to all the world but for a few. But even more than that, he sought to master the sorcery of Ondluk, the goblin lord. In particular, he sought to understand the sorcery that allowed the Allfather to pass from Aihrde and to the void. All this came to light and discomforted the Emperor. Marcus spent no time condemning Trigal. He took possession of all that the wizard held dear: ancient grimoires of dwarven lore, scrolls, goblin runes, artifacts of the old world. His servants hauled all of it to the Emperor's treasure room. Trigal came before Marcus in chains. For long years you have served me, my father and his father before him. You have given us wealth and power, though clearly you kept the lion's share for yourself. And for this I name you cursed. Your possessions are forfeit, and you are banished from all the realms of Enoch. He sent Trigal forth, penniless, with nothing but the clothes upon his back. He disbanded the order, and those of Trigal's students who resisted him ended their days in the lion pits. He forbade any, on pain of death, to seek out or come to know anything of the runes. Surviving members of the order scattered far and wide. Some continued their quests alone, others banded together. Some sought the power for themselves, others for the world. A few banded together to search for Trigal, for they feared what he might do. For his part, Trigal discarded his name and adopted one more fitting his designs. He took the name Malazor, a name with no translation in the dwarven tongues of Aihrde, nor of the Seven Rivers. It carries the echo of the languages spoken by the denizens of the wretched plains, where 'tis said that the wizard spent many years. But he was known by other names as well: Mongrul the Troll Lord, Nulak, Baelgluth, and others. He took up the mantle of a golden robe, and bore with him a rod cast in brass, but wrapped in dragon skin. In those days, there was much information stored in the libraries of the dwarven halls. Malazor took the guise of a gnome scholar, and gained entry to the deeps of Norgorod Cam, where much of this information remained untouched. He studied there for many long years. His sorcery was such that he fooled even the dwarven Allfathers, at least for a time. When they discovered his identity, they cursed him. In those days, much as today, the dwarves carried a great malice for all sorcerers, for it was the goblin Ondluk and his sorcery that destroyed all that they had loved in ages past. They bound Malazor and branded his hand with an iron from the hall's forge, and named him Bealgloth, which is Hand of Ash. This mark stayed with Malazor forever, and he bore it with him wherever he went, no matter the guise he took, giving him away more than once. The brand marked him as a thief and a liar and a sorcerer. The dwarves drove Malazor from the hall, but it mattered little to him, for by then he had more than enough information. He gathered to him a group of stout fellows, rogues, warriors, and a few priests, and he began to trek into the west to return to Gorthorog, the first home of the dwarves, which was by then long abandoned. Malazor's long adventures, filled with dreadful deeds, great heroism, and battles with ancient beasts, do not come to these tales. But suffice it to say, the wizard found what he sought in the west. Gorthorog, long abandoned after its destruction in the Goblin-Dwarf Wars, stood like a hollow tomb. Malazor sought after the Mammoth Scrolls, those ancient texts within which the dwarves recorded their own and the world's history. The sorcerer hoped that they might somehow reveal the hidden knowledge of any of the runes, or the obsidian book, or other devices which would lead him to greater power. Though he never found the lost archives where the scrolls were buried, he did find other clues, and dangerous ones at that. The Magus learned that when the dwarf king Dognor VII slew Ondluk, he found upon the goblin's broken body a tube of brass, within which were many sheets of brass, with runes from the elder days etched into them. These were the Ondluk Eroen, the runes of Ondluk. Though the king did not know what he possessed, he took them up and bore them into the world. They fell out of the history of the dwarves when Dognor gave them over to some of his allies. The rune sheets vanished into history, but Malazor also learned of the greater runes, those of the dwarf fathers of old. He set all these runes into schools, which scholars call the Four Pillars, the Arcs of Time, Paths of Umbra, Grey Mist, and others named. Malazor took up his staff once more to quest the world over, seeking the Ondluk Eroan. In time, he discovered these sheets, one after the other, some found in lost dungeons, others in a lord's possessions, and still others discarded as scribble from the elder days. But his mind remained bent upon a particular set of runes, the Paths of Umbra. For these, or so he believed, would allow him to travel through the multiverse. In those days, Malazor's followers spread throughout the world, and with them many of the runes. What Ondluk had once guarded with care, men now used heedlessly. The knowledge of the runes spread, and it deepened the power of the sorcerers, but also gave birth to a new breed of magic, and the first of the rune marks came to Aihrde. These were different from the sorcerers, or even the wizards, where before the knowledge of the powers of old found release in complicated speech, or understood in complicated spells that were like echo chambers for the language of creation, the rune marks possessed a magic that was much closer to that carefully crafted by the dwarves or goblins of old. Which, by the way, rune mark is a player class in the Adventurer's Backpack. Malazor cared not for the rune marks, or use of the runes, nor the power of wizards and men, but rather continued his quest for the Paths of Umbra. In time, he succeeded. Long after many of his old enemies were dead and turned to dust, Malazor unraveled the mystery and found the Paths of Umbra. With the discovery in 676 of the Paths of Umbra, Malazor gained a power none had possessed in countless years. He reconstituted the White Order and gathered about him a host of sorcerers and wizards. From the paths, Malazor learned the makings of the world, of how the Allfather had created the Val Ericune, the Arc of Time, and the Endless Pools. He learned, too, that many of the Allfather's creations lived as powerful entities, bound to the void for eternity. Malazor learned of one, a dark stain upon the early creation of the world that even the goblins feared, and of which the Red God would not speak. It seemed to be an unmastered power, without thought or creed or idea of all that transpired, and the sorcerer wondered at it, for it was a darkness like none he had seen before. Malazor knew, through his mastery of the paths, that though gates opened by the great goblin Ondlook existed, that would let one pass into the multiverse, none existed to the void, but for the Rirm Otsul, and that and that track, none but Anderoth and the dwarf. And that track, none but Anderoth the dwarf had found. The Rirm Otsul is like the veil between Aihrde and not Aihrde. It's like a fog that the sun and moon pass through. Malazor knew the Wall of Worlds stood strong against the prying eyes of those creatures left in the great empty, but now he possessed the knowledge to breach the wall and free what lay hidden beyond. He used the paths to cross over into the void, and there cast himself in search of he knew not what. He unearthed all manner of knowledge. Some he mastered, some he discarded. He spent hours without count, drifting the currents of the void, capturing echoes of creation. But in time, he spied the undeeps, and a darkness so black it marred the void itself. When he saw it, he lusted for it, and the power it must contain. He knew that the darkness looked back upon him, but whether mindless or otherwise, the wizard could not discern. The Magi was at the height of his power, and he thought to himself that he could master this darkness and bring it to Aihrde, and it would rival any of the gods of men, for he deemed it to be fragments of the Allfather's language, pure and unused. In this he was not far from the truth. The darkness was without deed in all the annals of the world, and thus was pure and unspent. In this Malazor was wrong. In ages undreamt of by men, a darkness escaped the jumbled dreams of the Allfather. The Val Ericune, fearing the darkness as unsought, drove it into the great empty to the undeeps, where no creature, nor thought of any creature, ever dwelt. That the chroniclers account the first war of the gods, and the darkness existed beyond sight of all there was, for all the Rin of the world. It was a stain upon the memory of even Corthane and the Red God, the echo of which carried far into the markings of the world. Malazor thought the darkness was mindless, and with that in hand, and that with it in hand, he could challenge even Corthane in the Fortress of Wind, and for his arrogance, the world would forever change. Malazor failed to understand, however, that the creature he found was not a mindless creation of the Allfather's whim, but one of the greatest of the Val Ericune. He failed to understand the maxim of all that is, or ever will be, that from nothing comes nothing. Only labor brings thought to life and action to deed. and he failed to understand that the Allfather's actions, even those he took no notice of, possessed purpose and design without exception. Thus, the darkness that rose from his dreaming rest in the days before days was a labor of his design, willed or not. Malazor touched that labor with a thought of the world of Aihrde, and images of the world came to the darkness that alone brooded in the undeeps at the beginning of all that is. It was in ignorance that he set about to bring this terror to Aihrde. And that, I think, is where we will end, because we are right about at the end of our time. A veil between the real and the esoteric. Yeah, totally. The void is just where all of, like, the afterlives are. It's where the endless pools are. The endless pools are kind of like limbo. And yeah, it's where all the stuff that isn't the material plane is. Well, thank you very much. I'm glad that y'all stopped in and checked it out. Let me see if we can raid anybody today. You rock this totally. Thank you so much. And it's so great to meet you. Thank you again for reaching out. We'll get you taken care of if we're able to. I think we can help. You'll hear back from Chuck very soon. Let's find somebody. Who do we want to raid? If you all have a moment, it would mean the world if you wanted to hang out and participate in the raid. I totally get it if you are tired or got somewhere to be, but when we do raid into people, I know that it means the world to, like, have a group that, like, sticks around and, like, says a nice thing about their stream before bouncing. Whenever people raid us, I know that it just, like, absolutely makes my day when that happens. So if you have a moment for it, we're gonna raid Blue Cottage D&D, who we're apparently following, and they seem super cool. Help those that are helping you. I get that. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, let's just go in, say one nice thing. Tomorrow is Steve's stream, so Steve will be live. Oh, Robert, I'm sorry. We're just finishing up. It's so good to see you, though. Hang out for the raid. We're going to raid into a super awesome channel. They're playing some tabletop RPGs. Tomorrow is Steve's AMA. He's going to talk about all things fantasy and tabletop role-playing games. Wednesday morning is Chuck's stream. They talk about world building. Thursday is the Troll Roundup, where all of us in the company hop on stream together and talk about whatever kind of bullshit. And then Friday and Saturday are actual play days. Yeah, check out our YouTube. I've been interviewing all of the troll lords and asking them questions about their lives and stuff, so check that out. And definitely check out Castles and Crusades Reforged and get a free player's handbook PDF. And I think that's all the news. But thank you guys again. All the love. I appreciate you hanging out. Let's go. Let's say a nice thing to this group. And I will see you next time. Mwah, goodbye, goodbye.